Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. While the achievement of radical human life extension is primarily a scientific and technical challenge, the political environment in which such research takes place is extremely influential as to the rate of progress, as well as whether the research could even occur in the first place, and whether consumers could benefit from the fruits of such research in a sufficiently short time frame. I, as a libertarian, do not see massive government funding of indefinite life extension as the solution, because of the numerous strings attached and the possibility of such funding distorting and even stalling the course of life extension research by rendering it subject to pressures by anti-longevity special interest constituencies. I can allow an exception for increased government medical spending if it comes at the cost of major reductions in military spending, as I will discuss further in this presentation with regard to my sixth proposed major reform. Mainly, however, my proposed solutions focus on liberating the market, competition, and consumer choice to achieve unprecedented rapidity of progress in life extension treatments. This is the fastest and most reliable way to ensure that people today will benefit from these treatments and will not be among the last generations to perish. Here I describe 6 major types of libertarian reforms that could greatly accelerate progress toward indefinite human life extension. The first major reform is the repeal of the requirement for drugs and medical treatments to obtain FDA approval before being used on willing patients. The greatest threat to research on indefinite life extension and the availability of life-extending treatments to patients is the current requirement in the United States and analogous requirements elsewhere in the Western world that drugs or treatments may not be used, even on willing patients, unless approval for such drugs or treatments is received from the Food and Drug Administration or an analogous national regulatory organization in other countries. This is a profound violation of patient sovereignty. A person who is terminally ill is unable to choose to take a risk on an unapproved drug or treatment unless this person is fortunate enough to participate in a clinical trial. Even then, once the clinical trial ends, the treatment must be discontinued even if it was actually successful at prolonging the person's life. This is not only profoundly tragic, but morally unconscionable as well. As a libertarian, I would prefer to see the FDA abolished altogether, and for competing private certification agencies to take its place. But even this transformation does not need to occur in order for the worst current effects of the FDA to be alleviated. The most critical reform needed is to allow unapproved drugs and treatments to be marketed and consumed. If the FDA wishes to strongly differentiate between approved and unapproved treatments, then a strongly worded warning label could be required for unapproved treatments, and patients could even be required to sign a consent form stating that they've been informed of the risks of an unapproved treatment. While this is not a perfect libertarian solution, it is a vast incremental improvement over the status quo, in that hundreds of thousands of people who would die otherwise would at least be able to take several more chances at extending their lives. And some of these attempts will succeed, even if they are pure gambles from the patient's point of view. Thus, this reform, to directly extend many lives and to redress a moral travesty, should be the top political priority of advocates of indefinite life extension. Over the coming decades, its effect will be to allow cutting-edge treatments to reach a market sooner, and thus to enable data about those treatments' effects to be gathered more quickly and reliably. Because many treatments take 10 to 15 years to receive FDA approval, this reform could by itself speed up the real-world advent of indefinite life extension by over a decade.